So, Persona 4 Golden got a PC port, so now a whole lot more people are talking about Persona 4 again, or getting into Persona 4 for the first time, and this led me to think about a particular character, Yosuke, and he's what we'd call problematic.
This is as good a time as any, so I want you to be honest with us.
Okay.
Are you really...
Am I really what?
What I mean is, are we gonna be safe alone with you?
What? What the hell's that supposed to mean? I already told you guys I'm not like that.
For some context, the game initially came out in 2008 in Japan, 2008 in America, and not until 2009 in Europe. Same-sex marriage wasn't even legal in England till 2014, so it wasn't exactly the most socially conscious time. Still, there's no denying that these lines at the very least come off as a bit homophobic, and it's led to a lot of gay people to dislike his character. But when I think of Yosuke, I often think of this cut line of dialogue.
I focused all my attention on the murders to avoid having to confront myself. So long as I don't try, nothing will change even if we catch the killer. Right now, I'm just plain old me. And I want to do what I can with everything I got. With you guys. So I want to become someone who can proudly stand shoulder to shoulder with you. I never knew I had such heat inside. Don't make me say stuff like that. I like you. Don't go.
It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this dialogue is pretty clearly intended for some kind of romance route with him, which was ultimately removed. But I honestly think that Yosuke not having a romance route is a pretty huge missed opportunity. But first, I want to introduce two concepts. Compulsory heterosexuality, also sometimes referred to as comphet, is a relatively easy concept to understand. It's right on the tin. The idea is that through patriarchal and heteronormative systems of oppression, heterosexuality is seen as the default and people feel pressured to engage with it. While the original idea was largely focused on the experiences of women and lesbians, nowadays people have expanded the idea to how it affects both men and women of a variety of different sexual orientations. Internalized homophobia is another very easy concept to understand. It's essentially a form of psychological self-deprecation and possibly even self-harm, where societal homophobia is taken in and then redirected inwards. It can be very damaging to a lot of gay people. Now, I'm not exactly in the business of diagnosing or assigning certain traits like that to fictional characters. I'll leave that to the people who know what they're talking about, but these ideas are interesting to consider when reconciling Yosuke's seemingly scrapped romance route and his more problematic comments. Yosuke as a character already struggles a lot with his own sense of self-worth, his place in the world, and kind of wanting to be someone he's not. So these concepts could extend into his character as it relates to his sexuality and his own denial of it. Through a romance with him and the subsequent special events like the skiing trip and the Valentine's Day events, we could have gotten a much deeper exploration into these ideas. Hidden truths about the self and a person's own hidden desires are already a major theme in Persona 4, so this wouldn't have been out of line with the rest of the game. The game already somewhat engages with these ideas through Kanji, but his story is largely focused on his sense of masculinity. His sexuality is just one of the ways that he relates to his own masculinity, whereas a romance with Yosuke could have delved into these themes of sexuality on their own, removed from the sense of masculinity and lack thereof that Kanji suffers from. Also, from a player perspective, if you're going to include romance elements in your game and your protagonist is meant to be a blank slate, then you really should include options for both male and female characters. If your character is strictly heterosexual, then they can't also be a blank slate for the player. Though this ties into larger problems about the state of blank slates and player insert characters within games. Ultimately, if the game gave Yosuke a romance route, then it could have further developed his character and introduced some new ideas to players of the game, and I think that would have been really interesting. Also, in terms of representation, depending on how this was written, it could have been very powerful, and Yosuke isn't exactly a stereotypical gay character, so I think it would have been good. At the end of the day, I still like Yosuke as a character, despite his more problematic aspects, but I think a romance route really could have made him one of my favourite characters of all time. You're free to disagree, of course, but to me, I think it would have been really impactful. Overall, that's all I really have to say on this topic. Thanks for watching the entire thing if you did, and I hope I gave some insight onto why I really wanted this to happen, and why I'm disappointed that it never did happen. Although, now the game's on PC, they could mod it in, although that's just wishful thinking.